All right. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. Today, we're going to demo Sprint 32, which will be Fleet version 4.60.0. Codename Germanium. Anyone want to guess the country of origin of the person who discovered germanium?
France.
Germany, yes. I was trying to think of a pun that would be appropriate, but I can't think of anything germane, so we'll just skip that.
Oh,
All right, so we're going agenda for today. We're going to demo user stories by feature category. We always read the user story aloud before showing the demo and explain why it's important to customers. What pain does it alleviate for our users? We always show where the documentation for the feature lives during the demo. And we include a list of bug fixes and improvements for reference, but we don't demo them unless they contain an important change that we want to note. Also, for the first time today, we're going to go through and go through all the bug fixes and improvements all at once instead of kind of bouncing back and forth on that. So without further ado, I'm excited for this first feature, MDM feature. I'm going to hand over to Sharon to intro.
thank you, Luke. So this sprint was about both bug fixes and some features. The first one is a feature that was really a team effort, many hands on that. And I'll let Jacob show a nice video and present it. Take it, Jacob.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jerome. So this has been quite a journey to get to a demoable state. And we've got a nice video put together per Tim. So I'm gonna have to share sound actually. Share sound. Okay. Can everyone see the full screen share here?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Everybody, this is Tim. We're going to talk about disk encryption at Fleet. So disk encryption should be a familiar concept to everyone here. It's a critical component of device security. It does come with two complications. As an admin, I need access to a device data when an employee leaves the company. And also, as an end user, I need access to device data if I lose the password that encrypts that data. And so what do? We store, or as we say, escrow keys to a safe place. And Fleet does that currently. It's a pretty robust MDM that already supports encryption key escrow on Windows and Mac OS. And we are now rounding out our cross-platform MDM support to include key escrow on Linux. So what is LUKS? What is this LUKS word? LUKS stands for Linux Unified Key Setup. If you have any detailed questions about the protocol, Lucas ran a very thorough POC that set us up for success here. He's a very smart guy. So it's important to note Fleet cannot enforce encryption on a Linux device like we can on Windows and Mac OS. So to address that limitation, when disk encryption is enabled on the team, those devices in that team will see a notification in Fleet Desktop pointing them to a guide on just how to do that. Now, for devices that are already encrypted, we can start the key escrow process. So end users will trigger it through Fleet Desktop, which sends a request to FleetD. FleetD then prompts the end user for the current encryption passphrase. It uses that passphrase to create a new passphrase, which can then be escrowed to Fleet. Now I'm going to repeat this because it's important, and that is that FleetD creates a new passphrase. It does not replace the existing passphrase. The existing passphrase is not escrowed. Both passphrases can decrypt the LUKS partition. So this passphrase is securely transported over TLS like all FleetD traffic is today. It's encrypted with the server private key, which is a requirement for this feature, before storing in MySQL. Now when a Fleet admin needs to retrieve this key, It's retrieved from MySQL and decrypted via the server private key before being displayed in the host details page. As with viewing all disk encryption keys, this activity is recorded in the activity log. Now it's time to demo. All right, as you see here, we have a Linux device. We're going to open Fleet Desktop. As you can see, it's showing OS settings here in a pending state, as well as a banner. We're going to click on Create Key. This is where it's sending the request back down to Fleet D. Get prompted for a passphrase. Enter a passphrase. We're going to fast forward a bit here. We get a success dialog. Now if we close these windows down, refresh our page here, see the device is now in a verified state.
So yeah, that's how the process from the end user is going to look. We're going to have similar functionality on the host details page. I'm encountering a little server panic trying to get into Ubuntu, so I'm not going to be able to show you live, but I will point out how it's going to look. So this is a Mac, and we currently have, when the API is working, we currently have, basically, we're going to have that same OS settings that you just saw in the device user page. It's going to be here. You can click into it. You see a modal with a table that has just the disk encryption setting, since that's the only one we're now supporting for Linux. And then both the statuses in that table of that disk encryption setting, as well as the status of the OS settings icon here, are going to reflect the status of the key escrow process that you just saw initiated. And then once that is successful, that is that Fleet has the newly created passphrase, we're going to have the show key action here, which will open a modal allowing the user to view the key. And I will post a link to a video of that shortly, once we've got whatever this issue has worked out. But that is going to be coming this release. Yeah, amazing work working with Tim and Lucas and Ian on this one. Any questions about that?
Okay, thank you, Jacob, and thank you everyone that was involved. We have a few more features on the endpoint ops front, so back to you, Luke, for now.
Awesome, thank you. That's really exciting. And I believe the first managed full disk encryption for Linux available. So it's a big deal that we're releasing this. Now over to MDM and George to intro MDM product group features.
Absolutely. We've got one here that Gabe Hernandez is going to be demoing for us for new custom OS settings, include any label.
I guess. Share my screen. Okay, so let's start with the story. So this story was to add an include any label option when uploading custom profiles. As the user story is, as an IT admin, I want to target configuration profiles to hosts using a custom include any label option so that I can have more control over which hosts within the same configuration baseline, aka team, get certain OS settings applied. The reason why we were focused on this story, if you kind of follow this trail of tickets. One of our customers who is a management service provider, we're looking for an easier way to apply custom profiles to the different hosts, all the different hosts that they had to manage. So let me actually get into the demo. So a little setup. I have two hosts over here. This one on the left is a Mac on version 15.0. And the one on the right here is a Mac on version 15.1. You can see they're already enrolled into Fleet with the standard profiles that come with that. And I'm going to start uploading a custom profile and using this feature to apply it to the correct host. So before I get into that, I'm over here on the controls page. Inside of the controls page, I'm in OS settings. And inside of OS settings, I'm in the custom settings subsection. So here I'm going to click on this button to add a profile. I'm going to select my profile. And I'm going to have a custom target. And this is where we added this new option. Before we had include all and exclude any. And now right here in the middle, you can see there's include any. If I select this, it will tell you profiles will only be applied to hosts that have any of these labels. I have two labels that are set up. One is for Macs that have the latest version, and then Macs that are on a version above 15. So when I click this, I'm going to add this profile, and it's going to take some time. But what we would expect to see after some time is that 15.1 is the latest version of Mac, and so this host does have that label attached to it. And you should see that this, oh, it already happened. Yeah, there you go. You can see that this profile has applied to this host, but not to this host on the left, because this host is not part of that label, is not included in that label. So it does not get that profile. Let me do one more just to show you kind of this include any bit working again. So I'm going to do another profile. And now I'm going to select both of these. So I want this profile to go to the hosts that are on the very latest version of Mac OS, but I also want it to go to hosts that are on Macs that are on 15 or greater. I did include all. Let me redo that. Custom include any. There we go. Now select both of those. So now any host that has any of these labels applies will get that. And let's go see how our hosts fare. Yes. So one of these has the label already. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for it to go through. And there's the other one. It just came through. So because I selected include any of these labels, any hosts on any of these labels, because these hosts had one of those labels on them, they got that profile. So it's just another little option that we give to users to easily add configuration profiles to their hosts as they need. That's it. Any questions?
Just to clarify, these are labels that people create, right? Like the fact that it's like 15 plus versus 15 whatever, it's not like it's calculating anything. It's just a string that somebody entered.
Yeah, that's just purely for the demo purpose. It's
Okay.
just like a possible use case, but yeah, it's really because the labels are very configurable. You could have a lot of different use cases and target specifically which label you want.
And there's a direct parallel in Jamf between dynamic labels and manual labels and static and smart groups. So this is like perfectly parallel kind of to that function.
I just want to call out specifically, the sales team, what Brock just said is a key thing to point out on every sales call when explaining how the product works.
All righty. And that concludes new MDM features for this sprint. Back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Great work. And I know we have some customers that are really, really looking forward to this. So we're excited to get that out. Back over to Sharon and Endpoint Ops for their remaining features.
Thank you. And we'll start with Ian showing some additional activity log. Ian, take it.
Cool. So the feature here is add activities for enable and disable and edit activities webhook. As a Fleet user looking at Fleet's activity feed on the dashboard and the logged in homepage, I want to see activities for enabling and disabling the activities webhook and editing the destination URL so I can know when the activities webhook was modified and by who. This was originally a community contribution that we kind of fleshed out from Il Pianista, thanks to this contributor for getting this started and for actually a few more PRs that have come in since. This builds on our commitment to make sure that there are audit logs on important activities. I believe Victor has another one of these later in this presentation. So we'll quickly demo this. Have a server here. You'll notice that we have some activities from when I was testing this earlier. So I can turn on a webhook here, save that. We persist where that webhook was pointed to and who turned it on. And then we edit it. That gets shown there. And finally, if we disable that automation to push the activity feed somewhere else, then we get the activity there. The payload remains the same as previously for that webhook, and it looks like this. Documentation on what this activity looks like in the feed is here in the audit logs documentation, along with all other activities. So we've got enabled, edited, and disabled.
Okay, any questions for Ian? If not, then we have two more features that will be presented by Rachel. We were asked to allow showing scripts that are uploaded to the server and also some additional information on log destinations. Rachel, take it.
Hey everybody, happy Friday. Yeah, so these are two quick win features that I'll go over. So this first one, as a user writing a new query, I want to be able to see a copy that explains what log destinations are being used to store the data and see the most recent results. And so if I go ahead to make a query, you're going to see that we originally just had our manage automations modal up here in our top right corner, where you can click on all of your automations and add them. And then our log destination is down here below. And then what we modified is now when you are either creating or editing a query. So I'm going to edit our query here. You can now quickly and easily manage your automation for that specific query on the query editor page now. So if you click automations on, we see this little yellow flag here, and that's because the frequency is currently set to never, meaning that you're not going to be sending anything ever. So if you change your frequency to like 10 minutes, you'll have your data sent to your log destination every 10 minutes instead. And the same thing goes for if you are creating a new query, you're being asked if you want your automations on or off as well in the dialog here. So that is the first new feature improvement. Our second one is better visibility for scripts. So this has been a request from a customer, and basically what's happening is if you want to run a script on a host details page, or if you want to look at a script in your script library, you would have to download the script in order to view what you're running. And that is now updated. So if you go to the controls page under scripts, you are now able to click on this text here, and that will open a modal that will show you what the script is. And so from here, you're not just stuck in this modal. You can also download and delete, which is actions that we previously had. And then from here, if you wanted to run the script, you can go to your hosts, click on a host, and we already had this run script modal here. Uh-oh. Am I on no team right now? We should be seeing the scripts right now. It just switched teams. That's probably why. Let's transfer this to no team. And see our scripts. Okay, so here we are. Here are some scripts that can run on my Mac host. And so we can see that there was a script here that aired out. And this is a new part where these two are clickable. You can click on this and you can view the script that was ran on your host or will be running on your host. And this new modal also has the option to download the script or delete it. And then your host actions that were on the previous modal are here as well. And that is everything.
Rachel, can you go back to the screen where you can just click on the script in the, like on the main page?
Yes, on the control scripts page.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Were you looking for something?
I was looking for the index of the script itself. So that's like somewhere in the URL or in the UI that it would show
I
the.
remember. Yeah, that somebody requested that, right?
Yep. Well,
if you want to call the script via API,
exactly.
you need the ID, and there's not an easy way to get it currently. So that's great.
So I was hoping that in one of these views that ID would be visible. But
I'm sure we have that, so it'd be easy to expose it. Maybe Noah or
is there a chance to slip it in someplace?
Yeah, I think
if not, there's other feature requests on iterating on this. So
yeah, guys, but we should be able to move quickly in the day of the demo session for quick text changes. Let's stay agile on that.
Yeah, totally. I'll make sure we sync up with product design to get that added.
Awesome.
Yeah, that shouldn't be hard. Okay. Any more questions for Rachel?
In that modal, if the script is longer, it stays in that space, right? So you can always see the buttons on the bottom?
Yes, that's the new.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Okay, great. So Luke, these were all the features. So back to you.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great quality of life improvement. Thanks for the work on that, Rachel. For those of us who are using Fleet as Fleet admins, that's been a common kind of pain point, is having to download a script every time you want to look at it. So that is awesome to see. All right, so that concludes the feature portion. Now we're going to move into bug fixes and improvements, of which there are many. I'm counting 49 issues in this release, so great quality release as well. Rather than move around by category, we're just going to go one engineer at a time, and that engineer will show all of their bug fixes and improvements, or really show the ticket and talk through it a little bit. So to kick us off, I'm going to hand it over to George for MDM Product Group.
All right, that is a little different than I was expecting. I was expecting to just talk about all of my team, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that's fine too.
All righty.
However y'all want to do it.
Gotcha. All right, Victor explicitly called out that he would like to talk about his, but I'll take a stab at going over what we had for the rest of the team. So trying to move quickly, since we did have plenty here, we've got fleet maintained apps for 2 of our fleet maintained apps. When you hit uninstall, it would give a false positive and it would still be present on the device. Dante fixed that up. There were some registry issues where it just looked like it was still installed, even though it was removed. So that has been resolved. Lock command on Linux that we're running GDM would result in a stuck state, so he updated the lock script to also support GDM running Linuxes. We've got adding and removing profiles in the UI takes a long time and times out with 30,000 hosts. That was a performance optimization that when you add a profile now, it only updates the hosts that require that update instead of affecting the entire table. We've got failed to upload deb package. This is because inside a .debian package, it could be a gzip, a bzip, certain different formats, and this is adding in the specific zip format that this customer reported that we now support, which I believe, I forgot which one it is, ZSTD? Yeah, ZSTD. So now we support those as well. This by Gabe Lopez, this is actually just a documentation update. The fleet maintained apps only download Apple Silicon compatible versions. That's because based on our implementation by using the Homebrew metadata, we're downloading the default for Homebrew, which some of them default to being Apple Silicon only compatible packages. So this is a documentation update to call out which ones are explicitly not cross-platform supported. We've got a small table overflow update from Gabe about settings MDM ABM tokens. We've got remove express dependencies from codebase. This was a cleanup project just to remove extra NPM packages that we didn't need. Front-end dependency, MSW has dependency on vulnerable versions to path to regex. This was a security concern that has been fixed by Gabe. And then Windows automatic enrollment setup instructions are confusing for fleet customers. This was a copy update to make it more clear to end users. Haziel, a bug a user shouldn't have to enroll a device into a different team to re-enroll into MDM. How this would present would be if the end user had a host in a team that was assigned to a server in Apple Business Manager, and they removed that device from Apple Business Manager. Without affecting anything on Fleet, they would then put that host back into the same Apple Business Manager server, and the host would not re-enroll through MDM to Fleet. It would be stuck in this MDM off state. So he found the issue where that the Fleet server didn't update that and fixed it. So now it should be re-enrolled automatically without having to switch teams. The workaround previously was that if you moved that host in Fleet from one team to another and back, it would be re-enrolled, but now this is automatic. Missing guide for lock and wipe workflows. So he added in those guides. VPP apps fail to install on online host because MDM is turned off. So I believe this was a copy change to make it more clear to the user. And restrict being able to try and install VPP apps on hosts with MDM off. And then Fleet should return an error when attempting to set Apple Business Manager default team, and there is more than one Apple Business Manager token. This is just a cleanup on error copy. And then Martin took a stab at modifying label endpoints return outdated membership info for manual label. Is slightly also related to scoping config profile deployments with label exclusions is flaky. The caveat here was essentially if you added in a profile like Gabe demoed earlier today that included some complicated label targeting for that profile, and the host had not already processed that label to determine if it needs to be included in this group, the host would basically be skipped, even though it hasn't processed that new label. So now that profile targeting will basically wait until that host has processed if it needs to be in that label or not, making it more reliable. So this was a 2-for-1 basically. And then Martin took a stab at the large software installers can run Fleet out of memory. When you do upload a custom package previously, the entire installer package would be held in memory on the server to do the analysis that we needed to do targeting. So now that is piped to a temporary file on the server, no longer held in memory, and the analysis is done by scanning the file locally and using a much smaller memory footprint. So we shouldn't see servers crashing when you try to upload a large installer package anymore. And that's it for everyone else on the team. Over to you, Victor.
Thanks, George. I'm going to share my screen and continue. So just I have a few links here for the demo videos. I will not be going through each one by one. The reason I'm creating demo videos is they're targeted at QA and at customer success. So I aim to go into enough technical detail to for customer success to be able to support these features / bug fixes. But I do want to cover this first one. So in this issue, we're adding an activity item when a user installs fleetd on their device. Another thing here, some meta, is that this is the first one. Okay, in this I uploaded to YouTube, so it looks like we're definitely getting a better user experience watching on YouTube than issue from Google Drive. All right, so in this video, I basically install Fleet and Windows, and then we go, and when we come back to the dashboard, we see this new activity item over here. And then if we go and look at the details, we see that we have the host serial and the host display name in the activity feed. So if a customer is enrolling, or we're enrolling a bunch of devices installing fleetd on a bunch of hosts, we're going to see basically one activity feed item per host, like this. Oh, while we're here, Mike made a comment that YouTube is great for sharing, so let's go ahead and make this video public. Currently it's not public, it is unlisted, but we can go ahead and make this public. All right, next one. When we install fleetd with MDM, the URL for Fleet server and the secret come in via the profile. So when the profile is removed, fleetd wasn't able to connect back to the Fleet server. So in this change, we are now saving the URL locally on the host. We are already saving the secret locally. Eventually, we want to move the secret to the keychain, and we have a story to move it to the keychain when it comes via the MDM profile. But this change stores uses the locally stored URL now and the secret to be able to reconnect to the Fleet server if the MDM profile has been removed. Next one, this is basically more of an engineering feature. If we have a certain error that we want to monitor to see how many customers are hitting it, we're able to send that telemetry now back to the server and then back to our Datadog instance, so we can do some analysis to see how often customers are hitting certain issues. Moving on to the next section, the software installer. So we kind of fixed parsing of macOS packages. Previously, we were looking for this distribution.xml file in the package, but now we also accept package info file, XML file in the package. And as a side effect, we are now supporting script-only macOS packages. So basically a package that does not have an application, a package that just only runs a script. And this demo video demonstrates how to create and install a script-only package on Fleet. This next issue is regarding the Windows exe installers. So on Windows, one type of exe installer you can have is a self-extracting installer. So in this example, in this Opera example, the installer had both a 7-zip to do the extracting and the Opera browser itself. So it was showing up as just 7-zip when it was uploaded. So this bug fix kind of handles that specific case. It looks for 7-zip, and if it finds another applications, it assumes that it's a self-extracting exe installer. Now that said, our current default install scripts don't support out of the box a self-extracting archive, so the user would need to modify the install script themselves to put the installer in the proper place, like programs directory on Windows. Next is Endes. So as we were doing QA and additional testing on Endes SCEP server, which was presented last sprint, we found out some additional error cases that we want to have better handling of, such as timeouts and insufficient permission errors. So we show those up. We expose those either at config time or when the profile is being sent down to the device. This next one, we have a customer that was doing an MDM migration, and they wanted to control how SCEP verification is done and how SCEP renewals are done. So we added some environmental variables, so those two things can be controlled. And then we have a bunch of a few engineering initiated improvements. So one I want to point out is we finally have Fleet GitOps on GitLab. So we have a Fleet org on GitLab, and one of those is Fleet GitOps. And this is a mirror of our Fleet GitOps on GitHub. So this repo and the GitHub repo should be exactly the same. And in the GitLab repo, we are running the GitLab pipeline. So it is we have a green check mark running the GitLab pipeline. So that way, we have confidence that our GitLab pipeline that we recommend to customers is working because we're running it ourselves. Couple engineering things. We added a new linter, which is able to catch a few bugs to CIs. And then in engineering, we're now flagging flaky tests as bugs. So I looked at a couple of flaky tests, and then there was a small documentation improvement here. And that's it for me. Back to Sharon.
Okay. Luke, anything in between?
Nope.
Okay.
Over to you.
So we'll start with Ian. We have as well a lot of things, so reminding everyone to be as concise as possible. Take it, Ian.
Hey there. So first couple of bug fixes or improvements were around kind of vulnerability management stuff. In Fleet Free, we don't deliver a whole bunch of detail on the host collection endpoint when you populate software. And what that means is that endpoint actually completes quicker, returns smaller payload, has better performance. With this tweak, you can mimic that same behavior for Fleet Premium. So with the new without vulnerability details flag on populate software, you're going to have the same behavior for vulnerability details being nulled out as you would with Fleet Free, which you can get those details via the vulnerability/CVEID endpoint. This really comes into play when you have a whole bunch of hosts listed to avoid describing the same vulnerability multiple times in the payload and having some more expensive database queries and such as a result. On the vulnerability side, occasionally Amazon has 503s in CloudFront that was impacting our ability to build our vulnerabilities feed. We now have some retries in there to, or will soon have some retries in there to clean that behavior up. So there are a few Fleet desktop fixes here. One, all I did was QA it. Thank you, Rachel Shaw, for making this copy change from transparency, which did not actually make the UI disappear, to about fleet, which is a little bit more normal wording on that. Also, bug fix if you're migrating from one Mac to the other. Migration Assistant would helpfully copy over the existing device ID, which we now remove because we don't want the My Device link in Fleet Desktop to go to the old device when you're on the new one. Eventually, I think this would resolve itself with a token refresh, but now this immediately resolves itself, and you click My Device once you do Migration Assistant, and you'll get the new device information. Also, thank you, Patricia, for finding this. Occasionally, we'll see, or we saw the self-service option kind of flicker away in certain cases when we were refreshing an Orbit token behind the scenes. We have now tightened that behavior up to where if there are self-service applications for available for your device, that menu option will continue being available. Couple of other fixes here. We had some consistency issues on software item YAMLs in GitOps. Those consistency issues have now been fixed. So if you are using relative paths, then those relative paths kind of behave as you would expect, where they're relative to the directory the software YAML is in, rather than something else entirely. This is technically a backward compatibility break, but it's a break in the direction of behaving the way you would expect, and we do call that on the in the changelog. Another slight tweak to behavior here: if you wanted to edit or delete a script, previously you couldn't really call back any scripts that were in flight already queued up to run. Now edits or deletes of a script will dequeue those script executions, so you have a little bit more control of how those get run. So if it's like, hey, I actually don't want to run that thing, then either edit it by GitOps or delete the script, and those pending runs will go away. Also, tiny little improvement here on the software title page when showing how many of which version were installed. It could be potentially confusing of how fresh that data was, and now we deliver that information in the API and show it in the UI. One thing I don't have the tab pulled up for here as well is there was a to Victor's point of classifying flaky tests as bugs. There was another flaky test I was able to fix earlier as well. So it's nice to see our CI running a little bit more smoothly now. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ian. Any questions to Ian? Okay. Next, Rachel.
Hey, everybody. I'm not going to demo all of these, so just some of the improvements that have been added this sprint include some of the empty state look and feels. This next one was one that Victor found to have the front end surface a better error state if a user is trying to update credentials but not update a NDES get password. This next one was something I think Rachel found, just making it more readable. Spacing of team names on different columns, having our tables looking nice and clean. Same thing with our drop down placeholders to look nice and clean. This one I'll show you guys in a second. More empty state inconsistencies. Some inconsistencies with being able to tab to disabled forms, which is now fixed. And then I'll talk about this one in a second too. So two of the things I want to show you guys was 2.3, sorry, I think it's 2.3.266 and 2.1.4.1.3. So now if you are on on our app, you can now tab to the Teams dropdown. So this one was finally exciting to fix. So you can change with your keyboard. And then this other one that was really exciting to fix, and I think is going to be super helpful, is now I created a GitHub action to run nightly to check if there are new OS query versions. So when you are on your advanced options under minimum OS query version, we were like months behind in this dropdown, and now it will check nightly to see if there's a new version up on OS Query's GitHub. And if there is, it will automatically create a PR to add the new version onto this page. So that will be delightful for our users. And
Thank
that's
you,
it.
Rachel. And the last one is worth a tech talk. And I wish we had more of this automatic stuff. And if no question to Rachel, we can go to Konstantin. Please take it.
I just picked up 2 quick bugs as I ramp up on the team. The first one has to deal with the software batch upload endpoint. It was returning a 200. We switched it to a 202 because it was an async action that was triggered. So 202 is more semantically correct. And then the next one was dealing with the fleetctl query command. If you pass invalid labels, it would return to you a non-descriptive error. We changed it now, or I changed it now such that it will tell you which label or labels are incorrect or not found in the database, and it'll return to you a nicer error. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Konstantin. And Lucas is next.
Yeah, so there's one bug fix for FleetD where we had a P0 incident, and the fix we added will turn that P0 into a P2. Basically, the P0 was FleetD not starting at all when the signatures on our TAF repository expired. So if that happens again, it will be a P2 instead of a P0 because people are not going to be able to create new packages, but their running agents will continue to run smoothly. So that's fixed.
Great, thank you, Lucas. And last for today is Jacob.
Just a couple quick ones here. If you remember, last release we released some improvements to the error flash messages. That was a little buggy on the My Device page. Clean that up. And some small style improvements here on the Add Host Chrome OS tab. And that's it.
Okay, so that's it for us, and back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Great demos, great work this sprint. Excited to get this out. We're targeting next week to publish this release, version 4.60. And that's all we have for today. Have a great weekend, great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, y'all.